Pepe que quiere marcharse de Semedo. Semedo de momento está enchufado. Ahora justo lo digo y justo se pierde. Ay, a punto está de cometer penalti. Pepe. Gol de Nicolas Pepe. Pepe. Nicolas.
This is Arsecast Extra.
Hello and welcome to another Arsecast Extra, as always, with James from Gunnerblog. James, I don't know quite how to say this, because is it evening yet, or is it late afternoon? Is it 5:15 we're recording here?
Yeah.
Still afternoon or evening?
Still sunny where I am, so
yeah.
I reckon if the sun's out, it's the afternoon.
Okay.
It's sort of my rule.
Right, goodly afternoon to you.
Goodly afternoon to you too. On the goodliest, holiest day, Sunday. Yeah, I'm delighted to be talking about an Arsenal victory, and so surprised.
I think that is probably a feeling shared by many fans because, you know, look, we played a very difficult game in Athens, didn't we, on Thursday, and we'd all the travelling, and I think they kept saying on BT Sport, like, Arsenal's record when they play in the Europa League and then play on the Sunday, I think they've lost 6 of the 7 games, something like that.
7.
And I was thinking, oh, God, that's not good. And like, oh, all the reasons why we could have been worried. No, God, Jamie Vardy, and oh, the team he picked. Oh, the humanity of it all. And then we concede a very early goal, and you're thinking, oh, God, this is going to be a long afternoon. But I was extremely pleasantly surprised by what transpired. So it is lovely to be talking about it. You know, I feel good. We won. Jamie Vardy lost. I mean, the sun's out. It's good.
There's a lot to like about it. It's the first time we've won away to a team who were in the top 3 at kickoff since we beat Man City in that Cazorla and Coquelin game 100 years ago.
Out of here, really?
Yeah. 2015, I think that was.
Wow.
First time we've won away to a side in the Premier League's top 3 since then.
Yeah. I was talking to Andrew Allen before the game, and he was throwing some stats at me, and you know, it was this, and I was saying to him, God, you know, I'm really getting kind of fed up with stats. And I realize that's because we're setting up these records. And I realize another word or another way of describing stats are facts. And my response to that as well was that I'm kind of fed up with reality too. So
yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like, God love all the Opta accounts. They put out some brilliant content, but at times this season for Arsenal, I felt like muting them because every stat was just painful to read. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, not another thing we're doing terribly. But yeah, I honestly, when the first goal went in today, I really was like, oh man, this season needs to end. I don't know if I can handle it anymore. And yet, yeah, I come away from it, you know, really happy. And actually, I suppose I have to reflect on Benfica and Leicester as a very good week's work for this Arsenal team. Tremendous.
Really, really good week's work. You know, we had a big pressure game in the Europa League, and then I don't know that even if we'd picked our, you know, nominally our best team, people would have given us much of a chance against Leicester, you know, given how good they've been so far this season. Although I do take some credit for mentioning this in the Arsecast on Thursday night. We recorded Thursday night. You know, they lost against whoever it was they were playing in the Europa League. So I predicted that was the start of their end of season implosion, their annual Brendan Rodgers end of season implosion, and so it came to pass.
Yeah, and I mean, look, if they keep picking up injuries at this rate, that feels very plausible. I mean, you know, they lost Maddison last week, they lost Harvey Barnes this week. There was somebody else I seem to remember who
Johnny Evans went off. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it looks on the cards another Leicester implosion.
Yes.
By the way, Andrew.
Yes, James.
You have some reverb at my end. I think.
How about now? Is it gone?
It's gone.
I think I know what that was. Let me just see. Okay.
It's that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's that you're in a well.
Yeah, it's one of the little knobs here on the mixing desk can it's got special effects and stuff like that. So I don't know if I turn it up. Yeah, you see, it's like that.
Oh wow! Well, you're right down the bottom of the well.
What was I going to say to you? So let me ask you this, because I saw your tweet pre-game, which said,
yes.
"I am not confident." It wasn't
Capitalized
simply,
N.
It wasn't, "I'm not confident." It was, "I am not confident," stressing the shit out of the not. I assume that was after the team came out, right?
I have to admit it was. I wasn't confident before the team came out, but when the team did come out, I thought, I don't like the look of this.
I think a lot of people were the same. When they looked at the team. And
I try not to go overboard about team news. I wasn't tearing what's left of my hair out and raging about it. I understood the need to rotate. I just looked at the balance of the team and I thought, I'm not sure about this. I feel like this is ominous. Did you feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the team and I can't say I felt inspired. It didn't give me the injection of, oh yeah, come on. It was like, I'm not quite sure how this is going to go, but like if you were to ask me to stick a tenner on it, I would say badly. That was kind of where I was with it. I can't do, I've said this before, I can't do the wailing and gnashing of teeth over team selections because there's always something, there's always somebody who isn't playing or somebody who is playing that annoys somebody, and you can see the debate rage on Twitter. And look, I understand completely why there was some anxiousness before the game, when you looked at the lineup and you looked at some of the people that had come into the team, and some people who hadn't necessarily performed this season, and you worried a little bit. But look, is there a lesson there for us? Is there a lesson that, like, sometimes we have to trust a manager in that he's picking a team not to annoy us? You know what I mean? He's not making a team selection just to piss us off.
Even if it may feel like that at times. No, he's not. And he's also making more informed decisions than us, and this is has been a very intense period, and clearly a measure of rotation was required. And maybe he had seen things from players in training, that made him think, I'm happy to go with this 11. Maybe, Pepe's not, for example, played a lot of minutes recently, and maybe that contributed to how fresh and how dangerous he looked at times today. It is a balancing act, but it's one that Mikel Arteta got right today, and I hold my hands up and say I didn't see it coming. No,
and look, he makes his decisions, I imagine with some knowledge that some of them might be unpopular, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he's not blind to the fact that, like, when you're 2-1 down to Benfica and you bring on Willian, a guy who until this week hadn't really contributed a great deal for 20-odd games, you leave yourself open to criticism.
Absolutely.
And starting even Willian today, I know Willian, I think he talked a better game about Willian than Willian actually had. Against Benfica. I think he said something along the lines of he was a game changer, and I think he did okay, but he wasn't necessarily a game changer. Nevertheless, he picked him today, and I think it was the best Willian has played since the opening day of the season.
Yeah, I think he may even have been better today than he was that day. I think he was involved in a lot of goals on that day, but I thought his all-round contribution was maybe better today. I think Mikel Arteta did the right thing. He saw that Willian showed some green shoots against Benfica, that there were signs of a bit of confidence, a bit of zip coming back to his play, and I guess he's built on that. Listen, thank goodness, because he desperately, desperately needed something to inject some life into his Arsenal career. He has managed to do that in the last couple of games, and I think this is probably as high as he is kind of in Arsenal fans' opinion that he's ever been at Arsenal. And it's not to say he's pulling up trees or anything like it, but, he is at least producing something like the performances that we thought we might get from him. And that's a massive relief and long overdue.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go through this game, and it didn't start particularly well from an Arsenal perspective. There's a bit of a trend recently, isn't there, in terms of conceding early goals, and this was, 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in, something like that. And yeah, look, not great. I mean, where do you see the flaws in this one? Obviously, giving the ball away cheaply on the left-hand side is part of it.
And Willian is part of that, actually. I mean...
Yeah, Willian and Xhaka sort of don't really combine particularly well.
There's a couple of sort of slightly awkward passes. Tielemans comes in and nicks the ball away. And Xhaka's not going to catch him, really, in that situation.
No.
But I don't think that should mean he should have, the freedom of the pitch to kind of stroll into the penalty area as he does. Clearly... then maybe there's some miscommunication. It just feels like everybody backs off and he punishes us with an excellent shot into the far corner. It doesn't look good for Pablo Mari, I don't
Actually,
think.
I've rewatched it, and I think my initial reaction was like, this is really bad from Pablo Mari. But
right.
The more I look at it, the more I think you've got to look at Mohamed El Neni.
Because Pablo Mari at least has Vardy on his shoulder, doesn't he, to consider?
Everyone, when you look at the point where Tielemans takes the shot and scores the goal, you're sort of saying, okay, well, look, David Luiz is right there. But when you see where Luiz is when the move starts to happen, when we lose the ball over there, Luiz is a long way away. He's basically...
I would question that, to be honest. It's a big old gap between the centre-halves.
It's huge. So Luiz's positioning is not great in the first place. Like, he's miles away from Pablo Mari. So as Vardy goes running into the box, Pablo Mari has to track the striker, I think. And El Neni just runs in a kind of straight line into the box. He makes no effort whatsoever to run across the path that Tielemans is running into. So I think...
Do you know what? I think you're right. Yeah. I think you're right.
So
It's strange from El Neni, because it's not like Iheanacho or Barnes is kind of there for him to pick up.
Yeah.
He just kind of runs in that straight line, and he could come across and
he
cut
actually
the ball
runs
out
further away from the ball. He runs sort of back towards the back post. So I think, it looks bad for Mari by the time Tielemans takes the shot. But having watched it again, I think more and more this is obviously the error is giving the ball away. But I think El Neni should be the guy doing a lot more there. So
yeah, and I sort of don't feel too aggrieved about giving the ball away. I mean, when you play out from the back, you're going to give the ball away sometimes, and I think it's about how you recover from that, and we recovered from it really, really poorly, and that's what gifted them the lead.
Yeah, because, we lose the ball. I mean, I think the carelessness of losing the ball is that Tierney is out of position. He's gone on an overlap and isn't there. So that's what creates that space. But, like you say, Xhaka's never going to get back. And, the issue then is who's covering Vardy, because if Pablo Mari goes towards Tielemans and he plays a pass in behind him, Vardy's straight through on goal, and none of us ever want to see that in our lives, so...
No, so, that was a big part of the reason I was very much lacking in confidence going into this game.
Yeah,
Vardy's record against us is brilliant,
and I think probably the opening 20 minutes or so, I didn't. It took a while for me to be convinced by our performance, if you like, because I think we did respond quite well, but
we did, but I sort of thought. It was one of those situations where I was like, is this just passive possession? We regained control of the ball. But to an extent, I was like, are Leicester happy for us to do that? They're going to look to hit us on the break with Vardy and Iheanacho. They're going to look into the channels. So it was one of those where I was kind of a bit like, we've got the ball, but I'm not sure we're necessarily doing anything with it. But that did change, and I personally felt a lot of that was down to Nicolas Pepe, who in that first half had that poor young left back on toast, didn't he?
Oh, he did, and like that guy should have been booked earlier, way before. He eventually got what was coming to him, and then got taken off at halftime. But yeah, I think Pepe was really good. It did take us a while to get into the game, and I wonder as well. as a team perhaps are a little bit fatigued from Thursday night. And I know he made 6 changes, but also some of those players haven't played a great deal. So it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed. Maybe we were just kind of warming up. I mean, how many times in all the years we were playing in the Champions League, whether we played on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, you know, if you did an away game, the first half of the next league game was always, well, not always, but like it wasn't unusual for that to be slow. Like it would take the 45 minutes to get the legs going again, and then we might be better in the second half. So that was an issue, I think, in this game as well. It took us a little while to get going, but I think the performance wasn't perfect, but there was, as the half went on, a lot more to like about it. You know, in terms of how we were playing. Leicester really didn't trouble us at all. We could have had a penalty. I mean, the first one.
Yeah,
are you happy enough? I think it was probably the right decision.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, listen.
I'd go mad if it was given against us.
Yeah.
You know.
I felt aggrieved, because it's Arsenal and I want us to be given everything. But if I'm trying to be objective, I think that's probably not a penalty. But I still was really encouraged by it because it was Pepe making things happen, taking people on. And he does have that individual quality. I thought it was the right decision, but a good sign of what was to come.
Yeah. So the first goal... I think it was the time where your man got booked, actually. He fouled Pepe. And, he slipped, actually, making the tackle. But, hard luck. You should have had your card earlier. So I think this is a really smart goal and quite a brave goal as well from David Luiz, because Ndidi is coming in with his foot quite high. But that looks like a routine that they've worked on.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that come to fruition a bit because we haven't had a huge reward off our attacking set pieces. And this one seemed actually really well coordinated and really well executed. Luiz peels off the back. You see Willian have a little look. It's clear he's playing the ball into him. And I agree. I think it's a really brave header, actually, because there's kind of studs in that kind of vicinity. Yeah. And... he goes for it, and it's a good header.
Really good. Really good. Yeah.
Low into the corner. So that was on a day of pleasant surprises. Us scoring from a well executed set piece. That ranks pretty high on the surprise scale.
Yeah. I like it. We haven't done enough of that. Because we've so many corners and set pieces and free kicks this season that have come to basically nothing. But yeah, very good header from David Luiz. And then we get the penalties. So I think it was Pepe who took a shot, wasn't it?
Yeah. Definite penalty?
Yeah. The most obvious penalty I've seen in a long time, apart from the last one we gave away, probably.
Yeah, they still had to go through all the drama of taking the guy over to the screen. But, I mean, yeah, that's a stick-on penalty. His hands up. And, yeah, I mean, I actually was a little bit surprised Lacazette took it. I thought Pepe was going to take it, I have to say.
I guess captain's privilege?
Yes, and his record from penalties is very good. I understand Lacazette. I don't know if he's ever missed one. For Arsenal,
I don't remember him taking too many for us actually. But he put it away very well. I mean, there's part of me that's always thinking how a player can miss a penalty, but he stuck that away really well.
5 he's taken for Arsenal in all competitions, and he has converted them all.
There you go. There you go.
Very well taken, very confidently done, and a great, turnaround at the end of the first half because suddenly we're in a really strong position. And in fairness to Arsenal, I think they did take the game to Leicester. They did try and make things happen. I feared that it would lead to us getting caught on the counter-attack, but Leicester never really threatened that. No,
I mean, I thought they would probably come out a bit more and play a bit more, but maybe the early goal in the second half had an impact as well on, what they were trying to do. I don't quite know what they were trying to do from an attacking perspective because it was only really maybe in the last 10 minutes that they got up any little head of steam. But
yeah, I think Barnes and Maddison are so important to what they do going forward. Without both those guys, they did look a bit clueless, really. And I think Iheanacho's such a different player to Maddison. I think it really affected them. But that was a really nice goal, I thought, the third goal from an Arsenal point of view.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was nicely worked, wasn't it? We won it back and, held on to it in midfield, got it forward. Pepe, Odegaard, smart. He's got quick feet, doesn't he, at times? I think there was one moment where he didn't quite make his pass. It put us in a bit of trouble. And I think that was maybe my one takeaway of the second half, is that when Leicester threatened, it was because of our sloppiness more than their excellent play or anything like that. I think Odegaard gave the ball away once. There was El Neni gave the ball away once, and they got a corner from it, and we had to block a shot. And there was another one as well. Could have been Cedric, perhaps, who was caught on the ball. So it was just, it's those little small things. I'm not looking for any negatives today, but it's just to say that in terms of how Leicester put us under any kind of pressure, it was entirely down to us trying to shoot ourselves in the foot. Just basic errors.
As we got into the last 20 minutes, there were a few moments where I thought, okay, Arsenal are being a little bit more sensible here. Just some sort of fouls, or being quite cynically, like a few time-wasting instances, or people who went down where I wasn't necessarily convinced they were actually hurt, and things like that. And I sort of thought, fair enough, 3-1 is a good scoreline, but if we had gone to 3-2, it wouldn't surprise me if there'd been a few nerves, or suddenly the legs look a bit more tired. So I was sort of pleasantly surprised by a little bit of that cynicism to help us get over the line. Yeah,
I quite liked it too. And I have to say, the 2-goal lead felt much more comfortable to me this time than the 2-goal lead we had over Leeds a few weeks ago. I don't know if that's because we conceded 2 in like a few minutes, having been 4-0 up, but 3-1 and 4-2. But I felt a lot more comfortable with this. They lost Barnes, didn't they, fairly early in the second half?
We had lost Smith Rowe, of course.
Yes, yeah. I'm not sure what the prognosis is there. Do we know it's a calf problem or a groin problem or
muscular
something?
problem? Yeah, I guess I'll have to have a scan tomorrow.
Right.
Heart's always in mouths with him, though, because he's always had this history of injury problems. But fingers crossed, it's nothing too serious. Yeah.
So the third goal, Willian doesn't get an assist, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by that. I thought he. I've not seen it back a load of times, but I thought he was looking back towards.
Apparently, it was a shot which deflected into the path of an opponent. It's the second time it's happened, because remember, it happened against Fulham as well on the opening day, where he had a shot and he kind of scuffed it, and it came for, was it Lacazette? Maybe, I think, to score.
Yeah.
And it didn't go down as an assist. I think Orbinho was tweeting about it, how it doesn't get classified as an actual assist. So
right.
But look, he was there. He was in the right place. There was a lot more energy about his performance today. It's like somebody has introduced him to the concept of sprinting in the last couple of weeks. He
looks a younger man.
I don't know what it is. But
rejuvenated.
Yeah. Look, every player can go through a bad run of form. I think we can all accept that. It was the idea, and maybe it's a body language thing or whatever it was, but you couldn't convince me that he looked like he was trying his hardest at times, and I think there's been a noticeable increase in visible effort and work rate, whether that's completely tied to him being more effective, I can't quite say, but this was the first game in the Premier League that he started since Everton in December.
Part of me wonders if it's to do with that. Is it the fact that he's playing a lot less football that he suddenly found this extra zip? I don't know. Something does appear to have changed. I know it's only been a couple of games, but he has contributed more. Let's hope it continues between now and the end of the season, because in terms of his versatility, someone who could play left side, he played left side quite well today, can play right side. We could use him. And as we've said many, many times, Arsenal are committed to this player. And so it would be good to get something from him, for as long as we need to. Something is better than nothing, and he's definitely given us something in the last 2 games. So, definitely fair play, credit to him. He's taken plenty of stick on this podcast and many other podcasts, and,
all over the world. So credit where it's due. He did well today. I thought he had a good game, and hopefully, he can produce with a little more consistency between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, and pleased that Pepe got the goal, by the way, to kind of cap his contribution.
I mean, what did you make of him overall? I thought he was really dangerous at times.
Yeah.
I think the work rate is there. I think the defensive awareness is there. He does seem to combine with Cedric a little bit more, or a little bit better than he does with Hector Bellerin. And I've seen people sort of throw out some stats about, like, in the last game, Bellerin and Pepe only did this. But then the last game was Man City. So it's not necessarily a fair comparison. I know Leicester are third in the league and what have you, but, what did we have in the first half? 60, 70% possession? Something like that. Yeah. You don't get that against Man City. So the thing that I noted was when the ball comes to him, it doesn't always stick quite as well as it should. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's part of whatever little bit of frustration Mikel Arteta has, that the first touch isn't always the cleanest.
Yeah, I think that sometimes he still has to learn when he just needs to kind of set the play, knock the ball back, play one touch, and when he needs to, try and dribble his man, try and do more. I think sometimes it feels like he's trying to do the difficult thing every time. And that, is probably not the right thing.
Yeah.
But I say that, but I do admire it. I do admire his determination to make things happen. And even when Arsenal weren't necessarily going great guns in the first half, it always felt like he would be the person to get us back into the game. His biggest problem is Bukayo Saka, really, on that right-hand side, because, that is Pepe's position historically, and Saka's been sensational there. But I think you make a good point about Cedric. I mean, when Pepe was over on the left-hand side and had Cedric as his left-back, they seemed to combine pretty well too, or it seemed to suit both players to a certain extent. And today was a good day for both of those guys as well. So much of the time, the chemistry, the partnership on the flanks is really, really important. And, we're nearly at the end of Pepe's second season in English football. I think you'd struggle to say that at any point Bellerin and Pepe have really looked like striking up a good relationship on the field.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but he did well today, and it's good to see, and I'm glad he did get the reward with the goal, and he was dangerous, obviously, driving into the box, nearly won us a penalty, and did win us a penalty with a shot that was blocked. So, he had a really positive contribution on the day, and I think I have to give a shout out as well to Granit Xhaka. I know he gave the ball away for that for their goal, but I thought he had a really, for him, not someone you always associate with having a really smart game. And I think he did. I think he used his experience really well. He won free kicks when he needed to win free kicks. He blocked a couple of shots, I think. He made more tackles than anybody else. Sometimes that Xhaka leg out tackle looks a bit clumsy, but he got it spot on pretty much every time today. Used the ball, pretty well. I think he had the most touches as he normally does. It was weird. I was looking at this. Cedric had the second most touches, which is quite something. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, it tells you a bit about how he was used in build-up, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think Xhaka had a good game. I think he had just a really experienced game, and I think part of the reason why the second half wasn't there wasn't much drama, if you like. I think we controlled the second half pretty well. I've got to give him some credit for that, because he did it with Elneny, and he did it when Partey came on, and Partey, great. We got 20 minutes into his legs. That was about as much as you could say about his performance. But he didn't need to do much, obviously. We weren't looking for him to change the game or anything like that. So, I think Xhaka had a good one.
Yeah, it gave Xhaka a little bit more support. I do think he's in really good form of late, and playing alongside Elneny, there is a bit more onus on him than when he's next to, a Partey or even a Ceballos. I think he did his job well today, and I agree there was that, that bit of experience he showed in the second half, which is not always something you associate with him. That slight making sensible decisions, basically. He kept a cool head in there when we needed it, and I think he's been really, really positive. Because it's Xhaka, there's always that caveat of, when's the mistake coming? I mean, maybe we saw it today with the concession of possession, but in general, I thought it was another positive performance. I'm just trying to think. I mean, credit to the manager, really, because this was a team with a lot of changes, 6 changes, a lot of partnerships that aren't particularly familiar or particularly celebrated. I don't know how much we've seen Mari next to David Luiz. We've all had concerns in the past about Xhaka and El Neni. You had Lacazette playing up top with, Willian and Pepe either side. He made it work, and this was actually one of Arsenal's more positive results and performances of the season.
Oh, sure. I think it's a really, really positive day overall because, we've come off a European game. We've gone away from home. We've made 6 changes. We've scored 3 goals. We've beaten the team who are in 3rd place. Regardless of their injuries, they're having a very good season. And, we've lost games against worse teams than Leicester this season, that's for sure. We also did it without Partey starting the game, without Aubameyang starting the game, without Saka starting the game.
It was the best bench we've had for a while, let's put it like that.
It was, but Saka got the rest. Everyone was going crazy, and I understand why everyone's going crazy, about giving him a rest and everything else. So that we were able to do that we got ourselves into a position where we didn't need to bring Bukayo Saka on,
That's true.
It could not have been a better day for Mikel Arteta, for the team, for all the things that we wanted to see. Pretty much all of them, and I've got a question about one of them in part 2. But, you can't argue when you go and do what we did. If we had played below par and got beaten, then, okay, there's an inquest. And there's all kinds of questions being asked about team selections and all kinds of things, So I think you're right. Credit to him. Some of those choices, not necessarily brave, but, you're opening yourself up to a hard time if they don't come off. And they did. So, fair play.
Definitely. And that's a great point on Saka. I mean, he really did need a rest sooner or later. And he got it today. Didn't have to use him at all. And that's probably actually one of the big positives to take away. So all in all, very good. And if you look at this run of 5 games we've played, going back to Leeds, you had Leeds at home, Benfica technically away, City at home, Benfica at home, Leicester away. Of course, we got beat by Man City, fair enough. But in all the other games, I think we have looked quite good, and we've created quite a lot of chances. We scored 3 today, 3 on Thursday, scored a hatful against Leeds, probably should have scored 3 against Benfica in the first leg. I think that's the big encouraging thing for me, is that we are now creating chances.
Well, that's it. This is a side that is, in terms of what they're doing on the pitch, they're producing an awful lot more than they were 2 or 3 months ago, and you give yourself some margin for error. The error today was going a goal down. In November, December, that kills us. We're done. We're fucked. We don't get anything from that game. We might get a draw if we're lucky. But what we can do now is, even if we do make that mistake and we concede the goal, that there's enough confidence. I think that was an interesting part of today for me, is that you can see this is a team that feels. They didn't look panicked. Do you know what I mean? They didn't look freaked out by conceding early. Maybe it's because we do it all the time. They're used to it. But, I think they felt confident in that, if they kept playing, they would get chances. And they did, and they scored them, and we won. So it's good.
It is good.
Here's another thing, though. Let me just run you through this before we get to part 2. So I downloaded the game afterwards to have a look at the bits, have a look at the various things, of course. And I got it from what channel is it? Let me just have a look here. ESPN Vivo. So I presume it's in Spain or maybe South America somewhere. Maybe South America. There is a commentator who I haven't heard before, who does something quite remarkable after each goal. Now, the way you get the South American commentators, they like to stress the goal part of goal.
They get quite excited, don't they?
Well, have a listen to what this guy does when David Luiz scores. You get the goal bit first, but then, and I just got to make the point here that for whatever reason, this professional broadcaster and this professional broadcasting organization are making this man commentate on games with a $199 headset that they got from their local knick-knack store. So this is
they've nicked it from an internet cafe in the 90s.
This is the Luis goal.
Goal! Este gol del brasileño fue. Este gol fue de David Luiz. El gol lo hizo David. El gol de David Luiz. 1-1.
I mean, we need to get fans back in the stands just so they can sing that song.
Yeah, well, look, it didn't stop there because we scored 3 times.
Joking.
We scored 3 times. Here's Lacazette.
Goal! Fue Lacazette, lo hizo el francés. Fue Lacazette, lo hizo el francés. Fue Lacazette, este gol es para el Arsenal. Fue Lacazette, lo hizo el francés. Fue Lacazette, lo hizo el francés. Fue Alexander Lacazette. Amadeus, 2-1 gana el Arsenal.
Wow. I can't wait to hear that ringing around the Emirates Stadium. 60,000 fans, United. That is amazing.
It is.
I'm assuming there's a third to come.
There definitely is a third. I'm just going to fade in the goal bit because
can I guess? Is it going to fue Nicolas Pepe?
No. No. You're. I'll just play it and you can experience it for yourself.
Thank you.
Life is life. El gol de Pepe. Life is life. La. Life is life. Este gol de los Gunners lo hizo Pepe. Como toca este equipo, hasta abajo se metió. Ese gol de Pepe fue para los Gunners y lo hizo Pepe. Life is life. 3-1, se acabó lo que se daba, amigo.
It's like the Magpie Facts jingle.
Except somehow worse.
Yeah. Wow, I love that.
Yeah. So
El hijo de Gunners. The son of the Gunners.
It's it's just amazing. I wish there was more high quality audio because, I could make an album out of those, I think.
Es el gol de Pepe. Life is life. Amazing. I mean, you know how they've been playing music at the Emirates Stadium recently after goals in the absence of fans? I really hope that they could get that as a sting, you know what I mean? And just play those.
Oh, yeah.
Scores. That would be
one of the many Arsenal supporting musicians or DJs or producers out there could surely do a high quality version of that. Nicolas Pepe, Life is Life.
Yeah, come on.
El Gol de Pepe. All right.
That is brilliant.
Yeah,
wow.
It's good, all right.
In South America, watching football seems so much more entertaining. Do you know what I mean? I wish.
I mean, can you imagine Martin Tyler trying that? or like Ian Darke dropping some fat beats every time a goal went in. I'm not sure.
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. Clive Tilsley sea shanties after every goal. All right. Will we take a break and come back with questions?
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to the Arsecast Extra. This is part 2 of the show where we answer questions that you sent to us on Twitter at Gunnerblog and at Arseblog and on the Arseblog Discord chat server, which you get access to if you are an Arseblog member on Patreon. James, you go first. I'm giving you the honor today. The sun is going down behind me. I can see a beautiful orange glow in the sky. I've got a beer in front of me. So I'm just going to sit back, relax, and see what you throw at me, and depending on what it is, I just might not say anything at all.
You know what my question is, Andrew? Why are you such a nice guy?
Oh, I just...
Okay, so this is from the temperamental Gooners. Well, aren't they all? And they ask, who do you think should be given the number 10 role in the big games? Emil Smith-Rowe or Odegaard? While Odegaard played well when he came on, it does feel like we move the ball quicker and with more purpose when Emil Smith-Rowe is in the hole.
It's a good question. It might be moot now for a few weeks if Smith-Rowe has got a bit of an injury. So, I mean, it is probably going to be Odegaard for the next couple of weeks. In the big games,
I think they're quite different, aren't they?
I think so. I think Smith-Rowe is more of a mover. Like he drops into pockets of space and gives it and goes and moves away again, and he's always sort of there to provide the triangle, if you like, the apex, or is that what you call it, of a triangle?
Yeah.
Is it?
The pointy bit.
The pointy bit, yeah. But they're all pointy depending which way you look at it, though. If you just turn it one way, it's also the pointy bit.
Sure. He's one of those pointy bits, though.
Yeah. And I think Odegaard likes to be on the ball a bit more. He likes more touches of the ball and what have you.
I think he's a passer, Odegaard, to me. He looks like, we spoke about Ozil and Cesc before, and those are lofty comparisons indeed. But I do think he has got an eye for a pass. Even the way he kind of laid the ball off, in the build-up to the third goal, it just showed an awareness of space and movement that I do really like.
Yeah.
I think they have quite complementary qualities. I mean, I do think they can play together.
Well, they have done, yeah. I mean, it really worked against Leeds?
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I think one of the things we need to just be a little bit careful of with some of the young players is, you can't just expect Smith-Rowe to play every game. I think it was quite an important loan signing to get Odegaard in, and as soon as we have moved to this kind of system where a player like that becomes important, you can't just have one of them.
I mean, imagine if we'd lost Smith-Rowe today and didn't have Odegaard to bring on. It would be a very, very troubling time.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have to put a relatively squarish peg in that hole. So. At the moment, I think, if you're playing Aubameyang up top as well, I think I like Odegaard in there just because of his passing range.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
I think that it depends who your centre-forward is. And if your centre-forward is Aubameyang, I think you can have Odegaard there because he's a guy... And it depends on the chemistry as well, who's in the wide positions, but... if you've got two guys ahead who are going to sort of be running onto stuff, making runs in behind, I think Odegaard is someone who you want there because he can play them in. I think if Lacazette is up top, as he was today, Smith-Rowe makes loads of sense, right? Because he's a guy who can... he can play off Lacazette, they can combine, he can run beyond him. I don't think Odegaard's ever going to run beyond the striker. It's not really his game. I think he's kind of more like to drop off and do his work deeper.
He's an edge-of-the-box kind of guy, more than in-the-box kind of a guy,
Absolutely.
And just to be clear, it's not that I dislike Smith-Rowe or anything like that, and I think sometimes we get a little too hung up on, like, this binary choice versus that binary choice, when it doesn't really work like that. Like, there's going to be playing time for all of them, and the more good players we have, the better,
And that was the strength of performances like the Leeds game, and I think to an extent the Benfica games, that we had multiple players of that calibre and with different skill sets combining. And, sometimes the opponent will dictate as well. We might have one that suits one opponent better than the other. But I think working it out, depending on who's at centre forward, seems to make a degree of sense. And a lot of the time it's about balance. I think Arteta has a thing where he kind of wants to, in his front four, it feels a bit like he wants two goal scorers, two creators, maybe. And so it's about, can you kind of have the right balance there? But I think Odegaard has been really interesting. I'm kind of guarding against... I know there's a temptation when a new signing comes in to kind of see all the good, and I am conscious of that with Odegaard. I thought it had a tricky night, for example, a really tricky day against Man City, but then he didn't. But I do like a lot of what I've seen of him. He's a very, very technically able player. And I think he completed 95% of his passes in the opposition third today, which is,
right.
It's pretty good. So, he's very, 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 very competent on the ball, and we need that.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to make another point there, but it's completely gone out of my head. So that piece of insight and genius is going to have to just disappear. Lost to the ether. Yes. Aiden Aus 12 on the Discord says, is there a chance that Arteta is right not to play Martinelli and sees something we don't? His omission continues to confuse me. We had a lot of questions about Martinelli. I mean, today, despite the fact that we won 3-1, there's a lot of like, well, why didn't we play Martinelli at all? And I get it. I'd like to see him. I think he's an exciting player, and I'm a little confused. Not confused, but I would like to see a bit more of him. I don't think there's quite as big an issue as some people might think, but KT also says on the Discord, do we worry too much about team selections, especially with relation to young players? We've seen players like Phil Foden being held back, in inverted commas, from first team action at Man City when fans believed he should be starting week in, week out, and it's potentially been to his benefit. So do we need to trust that Martinelli will be introduced when the time is right? So that's that on the Martinelli issue.
Yeah.
So what do you reckon?
The trouble is, Mikel Arteta's got a lot of options in attack, hasn't he? I mean, just in the centre forward spot, he's got Lacazette, he's got Aubameyang, Martinelli and Nketiah. Then you look at the wide areas. He didn't play Saka today, but he still had Pepe, he's still got Willian. Aubameyang can play there, Smith Rowe can play there. There's pretty intense competition in the sort of final third for Arsenal right now. And Martinelli has been a little bit the odd one out. Granted, he's not been as much the odd one out as Eddie Nketiah or Reece Nelson.
Sure.
Who knows where the hell those guys are. But his game time has been a little bit limited. I do still maintain, I think he suffers a little bit from Arteta seeing him and Aubameyang as kind of analogous a little bit. They're sort of seeing them as kind of similar types who want to occupy similar spaces, and it means he tends to use one or the other. Obviously, that can't continue in the long term for the duration of Aubameyang's 3-year deal. We need Martinelli to be getting some games sooner rather than later. But it's easier to be relaxed about it when you win.
Of course.
I think when we don't pick up good results and you see him there not used, I was a little bit surprised he didn't get 10 minutes today. I have to be honest. I didn't really see the need for it to be, say, Aubameyang.
Yeah.
At that point in the game, we were 3-1 up. I thought maybe give him a run. What did you think?
I thought maybe that was a chance to give him 10 minutes, particularly as you could bring him on as the striker, and
yeah,
what he could do pressing and harrying and chasing around for the final 10 minutes. Maybe he doesn't quite have the technical security, that I'm sure he will develop.
84 minutes Aubameyang came on.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wanted a goal, but sort of, almost what's the point? Give him the rest.
Yeah, give him the full
rest.
And it is, that is a chance to give him minutes. He was asked about it afterwards, and he said he needs to keep working and making it difficult for us. He's a player that is going to give us a lot, but we need to find some time to find the right games for him and the right connections with him on the pitch so that he can do what he does best. But the way he is and the way he trains every day is going to be a really important player for us, no doubt. But when you have many options, it's difficult when you look for certain qualities in certain games. I think there's something quite interesting there, isn't there? Like putting him on with the right connections so he can do what he does best. So maybe, today he didn't put him on because he didn't feel the players that were on there were the right ones to get the best out of him.
That's the impression I get. That it's about balance and it's about chemistry. He doesn't seem to have many doubts about the talent of the player, the ability of the player. It just seems to be the fit right now. And, that needs resolving because, he's going to want to play games and we need to find a way for him to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well that it's a bit like the injured player syndrome. You know what I mean? Again, this isn't to say that Martinelli isn't a really exciting talent and a player of lots of potential. Of course he is. But when a player doesn't play, we kind of imbue them with a performance level or qualities that maybe aren't quite there yet. You know what I mean? Like, when a guy's out injured and the team goes through a bad run, you kind of wish you had the injured player back. Until he's back for a few weeks, and then you go, fuck, we should get someone else. It's that kind of thing to an extent with Martinelli. But I think maybe there's just a bit of patience required. It looks like in the summer Eddie Nketiah is going to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, can I ask this quick question on this topic? Because Tanner Osman on Twitter said, why is Arteta's selection of younger players feast or famine? He seems to either love Eddie, Martinelli, Maitland-Niles or Nelson, or they're out in the cold. I just thought I'd throw that in if we're having the discussion about Eddie and some of these other young players. Do you think it's just a case that he's made his decisions on some?
I think it could be. I mean, I think with Reece Nelson and Eddie, like, when's the last time Eddie played? Or started a game or anything like that, there's a pathway there. You can see the pathway for Martinelli to play a lot more in the not too distant future at Arsenal. If Lacazette goes in the summer, it all depends what particular role they envisage for him or what they think his best position is, because that's the next question. Like, why is Martinelli not playing is a reasonable question to Mikel Arteta, but where do you see Martinelli playing in this team and in the system that we're using? I think that's another interesting question, because is it as a winger? Is it as the centre forward in the kind of Aubameyang role, which I think it might be. But then, of course, he's got to get ahead of the captain there, and I can see why he started Lacazette today, because you're going away from home to a team that have been very good all season, and the experience is a really key issue, I think, for Arteta. I think for him to overlook some of the flaws is not the right word, but you know what I mean? Some of the things that young players suffer from, all young players, well, most young players anyway, unless there's someone like Saka and they're just fucking brilliant. There are growing pains and teething troubles and all those kind of things that are involved in young players. And, you could say maybe we don't take enough risks with some of the young players, or we've put too much stock in some experienced players this season who haven't done it. And that's absolutely fair. Like, I get why, for example, against Benfica the other night, we brought on Willian and people were going crazy. Like, why don't we bring on Martinelli? I get it, because Willian had so many chances and done very little with them until the last couple of games. So, I get that too. But I just think there's an element of they're holding him back. Maybe there's some physical issues as well, but I don't buy into this idea that he doesn't like him or doesn't want him around. He's in the squad every week now. He's basically taken Nketiah's place in the squad, hasn't he? So
that's it. Yeah, he has at least kind of usurped Nketiah, it would seem. And maybe more players are going to leave in the summer. We don't know. I think you mentioned Nelson. He could be out the door. Maybe Eddie. Maybe Lacazette. Who knows?
Yeah.
And that would see him certainly bumped up the queue for a centre forward spot. So it's an interesting one. I mean, whatever the case, none of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Willian are the long-term future of Arsenal in those positions, centre forward and left wing. So, over the next few seasons, there is a real opportunity there for Martinelli. It just is a little bit tricky for him to kind of get his foot in the door right now.
Yeah. Is it your turn, my turn, or?
I don't know. I've got a question, though.
Okay. Go for it.
So, we touched on it here. We touched on Granit Xhaka earlier, but Jacob D on Twitter said, "Are you worried at all about the run of games Xhaka is playing? We're focused on resting other players, but he is in the team game in and game out."
We're going to put the mockers on him now, aren't we, if we say he's so durable and he never gets injured or anything like that. But, I think, you have to recognise and acknowledge the physical effort he's put in. He's played such a lot in the last few weeks and months. Basically, since the Burnley game, he's played every game, I did see somewhere, I apologise, I can't remember if this was a tweet or if it was on the Discord or something like that, but I saw someone say, does Granit Xhaka never get injured because he runs so slowly? I don't know. I guess the thing is, you can probably push the envelope a little bit more with an experienced player when it comes to the physical side of the game. You know what I mean? Like, if you're 19 or 20, you're still kind of developing, you're still growing, you're still putting on muscle and all that kind of stuff. And Xhaka is, the finished specimen. And I think he's, generally speaking, been fairly durable and injury-free throughout his career, hasn't he? He just seems to be...
and some players do just have that capacity. And maybe he knows his limitations and maybe he manages his body very well. Maybe when he does get a knock, he's able to play through it. A lot of players, they're not feeling 100% all the time, but they're able to play anyway at a similar level. It's been the case with every manager pretty much that Xhaka has played a lot of minutes, and I think it's just something he's kind of got in his locker. So I'm not, touch wood, but I'm not overly concerned about that. I am really pleased for him, the form that he's produced, and I think... since the Burnley game, pretty much, where he had that kind of implosion, that moment of madness, he has been, one of the most consistent players in this team.
What was I going to say to you? I can't remember. I have a question here, though.
Go on then.
And it comes from... Actually, I was going to ask you about what you thought of Arteta's comments about fatigue. Did you read those towards the weekend, where he was talking about how he doesn't like to talk too much about fatigue, and if you're a player and you start getting the idea that you're tired, he talked about having to develop mental toughness, to overcome the physical side of the game, tiredness that you might feel, that a lot of it he feels is kind of in your head. I thought those were quite interesting comments. So
yeah, I remember having a conversation with Darren Burgess about that at Arsenal, and him kind of saying, he came from a background, admittedly a very different sport in AFL, where players were playing through a pain barrier that he sometimes felt at Arsenal there was a sort of cultural reticence to do that. I think I'm sort of, paraphrasing appropriately there. And I do wonder about that, maybe Arteta... Because obviously you can take Arteta's comments and sort of sit them alongside some of the gambles he's taken on players. For example, Thomas Partey, playing them maybe a little bit earlier than he might have done, and they've backfired, and say, well, that shows a kind of poor understanding of...
Yeah, but that's not necessarily fatigue, is it? That's kind of injury management more than tiredness, right?
Yeah.
That's a slightly different thing. And he's talking about, I just have them here, there are examples. He says fatigue is a lot of times mental, because if things go well and you score a goal, I'm sure you'll still have the energy to sprint and celebrate the goal. So if you say you can't chase somebody back up the other end of the pitch and track them back, he said, I don't really agree with that. If you are on that pitch until you are absolutely done, you have to give your best. So... Yeah.
And I think, setting aside kind of the physiological aspect, I think from a psychological aspect, you can see what he means. And I think that's what he's kind of focused on there. But yeah, it is an interesting one, particularly in the case of Xhaka. This guy just keeps churning out the minutes. And I hope he can continue to do it, because with Partey fit again, that partnership was bubbling away quite nicely before it was interrupted.
Yeah, and look, again, today there was acknowledgement that we are going to have to do better in that regard. So Saka got rested. Partey didn't come on. Would people have complained if Partey had started? Of course not. But we're obviously trying to learn the lesson that we made or that we got earlier in the season when we played him too early. So, from the Discord, Simon the Mask King says, what do you make of the latest trend in clasping your head to have the game stopped? I think if you go down clasping your head, you should have to go for an assessment and you're either subbed or play with 10 until it's complete. And of course, there's the concussion substitutes to deal with now as well.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great that there is now, better protocols for head injuries. I think first and foremost, that is the most, crucial thing. And it's a really positive step. I think it's inevitable that maybe it will require some refinement as we go along. And I think it's quite easy, isn't it, to see how players could kind of take advantage of it. At the moment, I mean, there was an interesting one with Kieran Tierney today, wasn't there? Where I, for the life of me, I couldn't tell where he'd been struck in the head.
He wasn't. He absolutely wasn't. He was trying to have a rest. Yeah. He was knackered and he was trying to have a rest.
Yeah, and I think defenders will do that. And they will take advantage of it. So I don't know exactly how you police that, really. It's a very...
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, that, the rule or the refs try and stop the game immediately, don't they, when a player's got a head injury, although it didn't happen last week. When Rob Holding got a head injury, the referee saw it, played on, and Man City, I think, went through and had a shot on goal or created some danger in our box. So, the consistency of the application of that rule is up for question, as with most things involving referees. But we won't go there today. But, I mean, there was a really annoying part of the game when I think we had a corner and Johnny Evans went down holding his head. And we had the ball on the edge of their box. We had them pinned back, obviously, because it was a corner. The ref blew, as he has to, for a head injury. And play is restarted with a drop ball that Leicester then leathered all the way down to our goalkeeper. That can't be right. Surely if we're in possession of the ball, we should get the ball back in the area in which we had it. Would that not make more sense?
That would seem more fair.
Unless it happens to us and we can just...
And that's what I mean, I guess. I think, I think this will need a bit of ironing out. But I'm kind of not really... I'm more happy about them finally doing something about head injuries and concussion than I am concerned at this point. And listen, today it sort of went to our advantage because, we were able to eat up the clock a little bit. Let's have another question. Here we go. Ian on Twitter. Okay. The big question. Is it unrealistic to expect to finish in the top 6 this season? And then Ian says, we have a much improved performance since Christmas and have 12 games in hand. I think that's a slight misunderstanding of our situation in the league table.
What did he say? Say that again.
We have much improved performance since Christmas and have 12 games in hand.
I think he means 12 games to go.
If we had 12 games in hand, I would be much more confident of a top 6 finish.
Just about. Just about.
I mean, it's still Arsenal. What do you think? Is it on?
Well, we're only 3 points off 6th as it stands.
Yeah, Liverpool play tonight, right?
Yeah. Look, it's not impossible. It's unlikely, but it's not impossible.
I still think it's unlikely.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely. I don't think, based on what we've seen so far this season in terms of consistency, that we're capable of putting together the kind of run that would be required to get there. You know what I mean? We'd have to do something like 97, 98. Where we won, what did we win? 10 in a row, something like that.
10 on the spin or something.
We genuinely have to do that. And I don't think
we've got
capable.
Some big periods. I mean, listen, the Olympiacos games, they fall before Premier League matches against Spurs and then away at West Ham.
Yeah.
There's some tough tasks ahead. And I just feel like with the distraction of Europe, hopefully going on a little bit longer, I think it's kind of inevitable that we'll will drop some points in the league. And as I've said many times, I think the damage was done before Christmas.
I think so too. And the only thing I would say is that if there is any way of doing it, the fact that we were able to rotate so heavily today and beat a team like Leicester gives you a little bit of hope in that regard. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That the only way you can do it, if we continue with Europe and we're playing this Thursday, Sunday schedule, is getting the maximum, not just out of your so-called first 11, it's getting the maximum out of the entire squad. So that's the only way it can happen. I mean, I still don't think it will, but...
Yeah, I mean, and listen, there are plenty of other sides above us in the table who also have European football to contend with, so that might, create some strange results. Who knows? But I've just got my eyes on Spurs. I have to say, I would really love Arsenal to finish above Spurs this season.
Yeah.
Annoyingly, they looked quite good today. But
I turned on for like 2 seconds after our game, and I just saw Harry Kane.
Turn straight off again. I mean, the bad news is they've remembered that Gareth Bale plays for them, and the other bad news is that Gareth Bale has remembered he's a footballer.
Oh, did he? What did he do? Did he do something today?
Yeah, he just played football again.
Okay.
For the first time in about 3 years, and was pretty good, admittedly against quite a poor Burnley side, but that's very annoying timing with the North London derby just around the corner.
Insert your smart remark here about how a poor Burnley side will be made look like Brazil 1970 by Arsenal next weekend when we go to play there, of course.
I meant they were poor on the day. They are, of course, the footballing equivalent of the Harlem Globetrotters. They're an astonishing football team and are certain to destroy us.
Okay. On Twitter, Hayder Javed _14 says, we've conceded within the first 5 minutes in 3 of our last 4 Premier League games. Man City, Villa and Leicester. It was 7 minutes today in the 7th minute, but we'll give you a bit of leeway there because the overall point is, does this point towards a concentration problem or lack of motivation, since there's very little to achieve in the league this season? What's going on with all the early goals, James?
It feels like concentration, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like focus. I mean, the errors are pretty basic and they are happening early in games. I don't know why that would happen. Part of me wondered, is there a case of have they been given something else to think about? Is there a question of, in the first 5 minutes of the game, they're kind of trying to work something out for their system? Okay, who's making that run for Leicester? Who's picking up who here? And does it mean that they don't concentrate on the basic stuff? Because
yeah.
It is kind of strange. I think about that goal against Aston Villa. I think about the goal we conceded today. I think about the one against Man City. It must be pretty frustrating for the manager. But maybe it's about the messaging. Maybe it's about the last thing they're told before they go out on the field. Because it's a weird pattern, right?
It is. Certainly in the last few weeks, it's been a pattern and it's been costly. Villa, obviously, we lost, and Man City, maybe we would have lost anyway, regardless of when the goal was conceded. Could they have kept going and got a goal? It felt a bit like that, didn't it? Even though they didn't score again. So, yeah, today was careless. We could have done better and should have done better defensively for that goal. It's a habit you don't want to get into, Conceding goals is bad, obviously, but you don't want to make it a thing or for it to become like a psychological worry for the players. It's like, oh shit, are they inhibited in the first 10 minutes of every game because they concede too frequently? I don't know. Yeah.
It'd be great if it stopped, though. I mean, to be fair, it's giving us good practice at coming from behind, which we hadn't been great at until recently this season.
I much prefer being in front all the time.
That would be better. That would be better. Hey, what about this question? Everybody was kung fu fighting on Discord.
Right.
Any comments on the shit show at Schalke? That's quite a mouthful. The shit show at Schalke and having that poison out of our dressing room. Have you seen What's been going on at Schalke?
I saw some story. I haven't been able to pay too much attention over the last few days, but I saw was there a dressing room revolt led by Kolasinac and Mustafi? Is that right?
That was the story. I think it was mainly Mustafi who was kind of fingered as the guy. And then today, their manager was sacked. Their manager, by the way, was Christian Gross, who, of course, you'll remember from his time at Spurs. I didn't realise this, but they are rock bottom of the Bundesliga.
Yeah, they haven't won a game since the dinosaur era, basically.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah. I did wonder why they were willing to buy Mustafi and Kolasinac, and I guess desperate times call for desperate measures. Look, my main concern is that if Schalke go down, there's no way they're going to take on Sir Kolasinac's wages from us. So I need them to perform a miracle and stay up.
Don't think it's going to happen.
It doesn't look good. They've got 9 points. I mean, as funny as it would be to kind of pin this on Kolasinac and Mustafi, they were apparently in a pretty historic bad run of form long before these guys turned up.
But it's a bit like going, oh shit, my house is on fire, and then throwing petrol all over it.
Well, there is that. They've won one game, I believe, all season long.
Wow.
So, yes, I mean, good luck to them, I say. I mean, genuinely good luck to them. I hope they stay up and decide to buy Kolasinac.
Yeah, good. They're going to need it. Henrik Ho Jakobsen, who's at Henrik Ho's on Twitter, says, hi guys, huge win for Arsenal tonight. Did you know that Pablo Mari has played 11 games in the Premier League, won 9 and lost 2 times against Man City in both? Is he underrated? He delivers every time. Strong arm emoji. So,
well, one of those games, I think he went off quite early, didn't he? He
barely played in that first Man City game, yeah.
So he's not responsible for that one. Yeah, I saw another question about Pablo Mari, actually, which was, where is it? Oh, maybe I've lost it. Someone was asking, is he our best defender? Apologies, I can't recall who that was. I mean, he's been pretty steady, hasn't he, in the games that he's played? I slightly feared today with Luiz and Marie up against Jamie Vardy. It wasn't exactly like they were going to stay with him stride for stride, but...
Well, I mean, he did really well in that moment when Vardy went through, and I was going, oh, here we go. Here we go. This is what's going to happen. Vardy's going to sort of run across Pablo Mari, and then he's going to fall over, and we're going to get a man sent off, and they're going to have either a dangerous free kick or a penalty, and it's all going to go wrong again. I could see it play out as clear as day, but he did really well. He did really well. Vardy was far more interested in engineering that kind of scenario than he was for getting the ball, and Pablo Mari just used his strength. And look, Vardy didn't run away from him either, did he?
No, they went. It was really good defending. Yeah. It was Billy Conyard, by the way, who was saying he thinks Mari might be our best defender. But yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by that. Really impressed. And he looked pretty composed throughout.
Yeah, he did.
He does.
I was a little bit worried early on because I thought Luiz was going to have one of his days. I don't know if you noticed this early on, but there was a couple of times where he passed the ball across and he was gesturing. There was one time he played the ball to Marie and he was sort of waving his arm.
I did see that.
There was
and I think his positioning isn't great on the Leicester goal, as we've said.
Luiz. Yeah. So I was a little bit worried about that, and I just worried about the partnership between the two of them. Look, it's still quite early days to say with regards to Pablo Mari, but I don't think he's done anything that should make anybody particularly worried. Again, Xhaka's going to get an injury. Pablo Mari's going to score an overhead kick own goal in the next game now. We're talking so nicely about these guys. But you know what I mean? I think he reads the game well. He actually today a couple of times pushed up really smartly to intercept as Leicester were trying to play the ball towards our box.
Yeah, he's got that in his locker.
So I think he did pretty well. I didn't really look at his stats, which I might do right now. So his defensive stats today: 1 tackle, 1 interception, 3 clearances. His passing was 81%, 61 touches of the ball. Yeah, I think he's done absolutely fine. You know, I think he's done a really solid professional job in pretty much every game he's played in. So, you know, whether he's the first... Gabriel wasn't even in the squad today, so we assume there was a bit of an injury there. So whether Gabriel would have played today, we don't know. But, like, I got no real worries about him as yet. It's still a fairly small sample size, but I thought he played well today.
Absolutely. And, you know, most of us are talking about a player that we haven't seen loads of. You know, his career prior to Arsenal was played in the Spanish second division and in Brazil. You know, we haven't watched him plenty of times. So it does still feel like early days. But the biggest compliment I can pay him is just to say that from a recruitment perspective, I don't worry about the left side of our central defence at all. And that's whether David Luiz stays or whether he goes. I think in Gabriel and Pablo Mari, we've got two good options there. Yeah, and I don't think we need to add on that side.
Valère on the Discord says, has your or Arsenal fans' opinion of the Cedric and Pablo Mari deals changed? As far as backup fullback option, Cedric is one of the best we've had in years compared to Kolasinac, Lichtsteiner, etc. And Mari has been solid at the back.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think in the case of Mari, I think that he's done better than I expected him to do, and I think he looks like he could be a pretty useful player acquired at a price that was probably higher than advertised at the time, but it's still relatively reasonable. The Cedric one, I will always have that kind of nagging thing just because of Maitland-Niles, and you know, did we really require an extra right back at that specific point in time, and did it need to be a guy who was not going to have any resale value whatsoever? I'll always have that nagging doubt. I think he's done okay, and I thought he was pretty good today, but just from a squad building perspective, I still have question marks over that one. What about you?
I think Cedric has done better than I thought he would, so I'll take a little slice of humble pie on that one. You know, like you, I think the provenance of the deal remains open to question. Like, was that the best deal we could do, or the most convenient? You know, we all know, so there's no point ratcheting it up. It's not his fault though, and I think he's done well. I thought he played well today, and he covered pretty well at left back. Although I sort of have concerns about playing a right-footed player at left back for any sustained period. I just, you know, don't really think it works. I wouldn't want to be
starting next season with him as the backup left back. Let's put it like that.
No. That's one of the issues we've got to sort in the summer. And like Pablo Mari, yeah, he's done absolutely, as I said, he's done absolutely fine. Professional, experienced, showed his experience today, used it well, and played his part in what was a really good win. So, yep, keep it up, guys.
Yeah, listen, no one happier than me to kind of eat humble pie if a player...
Humble pie?
Humble pie.
Humble plywood.
if players perform out. Good day for Kia Jarabshin today, actually. His boys all did well for Arsenal.
He's going to have
Kia FC is alive and well.
All right, I think that's just about that for this one. Apart from this one question from Chris Darby.
Go on.
Who says... Why does Art Garfunkel look like a Willian and James face swap? Which I thought was quite good.
Yeah, I mean, as I've pointed out, it is illegal to have a haircut here at the moment. So, you know, my bouffant hair is definitely has a tinge of Art Garfunkel to it.
Right. I thought you were growing it for a role, maybe, you know, because you could just get a clippers and shave it off.
There is a bit of that. There is something potentially in the pipeline that I do need some hair for. I'm playing Art Garfunkel in the movie of his life. I'm playing Willian in a drama about his first 6 months at Arsenal, harrowing drama.
Yeah. That should be good. I like it, you know.
But yeah, Art Garfunkel. I mean, does Art Garfunkel look like Willian though?
No, Art Garfunkel's hair looks like Willian's hair. So if you were, you know, if you were to take any picture,
he's got my big forehead, but then with Willian's hair on the top of it.
And there is a slight resemblance, between you and him anyway.
Sure.
The young Art Garfunkel, not the old one now.
He looks like a kind of scary clown these days.
He does. He has the voice of an angel, though. Gotta say it.
He does. Beautiful
Gotta say
singer. I'll take my hat off to him. I'll eat my humble pie.
Eat your humble pie. Grow your hair. You two could be...
You could be the Paul Simon, Andrew, to my Art Garfunkel.
I think we'll leave this one right here.
Like a bridge. Is that them?
That's the bridge over troubled water, yeah.
Over trouble. Are you going to join me on the harmony?
No.
Water. Life is life. Life is life.
He did the song for the Rabbit movie, Watership Down, didn't he? Art Garfunkel.
What is that song again?
It's Bright Eyes.
Burning like fire.
Yeah. Bright eyes burning like fire as vicious rabbits tear each other's throats out. That is a brutal film.
Myxomatosis.
It's a brutal film.
It's,
Genuinely,
I read
by
the
the very
book as a kid.
Oh my God. It's scary.
That's why I'm like this, Andrew.
Yeah.
But psychologically scarred.
Yeah, it is terrifying. When you think that they showed that to kids.
They can't be watching it anymore, can they? It's probably an 18 now.
Probably is.
They've revised it.
Yeah, X-rated. X-rated.
They'll remake it
Rabbit
with like
Savage.
James Corden in it or something.
Oh,
you just know it.
Yeah.
It's horribly inevitable.
Yeah, he'd probably do all the singing as well. He fucking always do.
Oh, man. No, thank you.
No, thank you. All right, let's go. It's Sunday evening.
Let's go. Sunday evening. Have a good week, everybody.
Yes, have a good one. Thanks for being here as always. We've got a week off, so who knows what we'll get done this week in terms of training and rehab and recharging our batteries. We'll see if we can dig out a midweek podcast for you along the way as well. But until the next one, take it easy.
Bye-bye.